Welcome to this session of Fertility Files. Today with us, we have Dr. Poonam Nautiyal, who's a very busy obstetrician and gynecologist practicing in Mumbai. I know her for past 15 years, and today, Dr. Nautiyal will tell us about a case which she referred to us in the fertility division. Yes, Poonam.
So I had delivered a patient last year, and then they wanted one of their relative to meet me. She came to me and she was very depressed and sad because she already had 3 IVF failures and she was not ready for any other treatment. So I just requested her to give me a file and I sent those files to you. And when you told me that there's something you could do, I really convinced her to meet you once. And I think that was the best decision that she came to you for that. And yesterday only we delivered her.
Yeah.
So it was like a very good thing. Yeah.
Indeed, everything clicks at the particular time which it has to happen with destiny. So this patient, I saw the patient and went through her details of her past IVF cycles. I realized that in spite of having good number of eggs, she had very poor quality of blast or the embryos which were formed. And in this case, like even the blastulation, whereas it was less than 30%, I realized there was something wrong with the male partner because all her tests were otherwise normal. Her AMH or the egg reserve was normal. The sperm counts and motility was also normal.
And we do so many tests for females. We do blood tests, we do laparoscopies, we check for ovulation, we do everything. For male, usually we are doing just the sperm analysis, human analysis. And I never thought that detailed analysis is also required. So I feel that especially in the cases of IVF failures like this one, so everyone should think about further testing. As if we would have not done this, we would have missed it.
So from this case, we realize that fertility test doesn't begin and end with just the semen analysis for the husband, but it involves a complete workup. There are so many things which can be done for the male partner, like sperm function evaluation, sperm his karyotype, and even during the IVF process, things like a magnetic sorter can help to select out the best sperm, and embryo biopsy can be done to know whether it is a normal embryo. These adjuvant methods are present. Apart from that, it is very important that proper lifestyle and the food, dietary habits are important in both the couples who are trying for pregnancy. So we always advise them to avoid any preservative foods and any packaged items and stick to natural home-cooked meals as far as possible to improve their fertility outcome. On an external aspect, we couldn't figure out if there was really a problem with him. But then when we did a detailed analysis and sperm function tests as well as the karyotyping of both of them, then we figured out that there was a problem with his karyotype, and accordingly we took the decision of doing an embryo biopsy in the IVF. Once we did that, we knew what was the normal embryo, which was the normal embryo, and this was transferred to her subsequently in the later cycle. She conceived, and then I handed over the case to Dr. Poonam.
So Shilpa, embryo biopsy, how frequently do you feel in which cases you prefer doing embryo biopsy?
So embryo biopsy is done for select cases. In a routine IVF, we don't do embryo biopsy for all. Under the ICMR, we have specific indications also for it. So a patient who is an elderly, like the wife's age is over 37, if there are history of genetic disorders in the family, or if there have been recurrent abortions, miscarriages, and if she has had a previous child with a genetic abnormality, whatever the outcome, then such patients can resort to embryo biopsy. In this case, we found that there was a karyotypic error in the husband, and that is the reason we could do the embryo biopsy and select out the normal embryo.
That affected the success of this.
Definitely. So transferring of this normal embryo, which eventually latched on and again gave rise to a positive pregnancy test. So even during pregnancy, I believe you do all the abnormality tests.
We do.
And at what duration would you recommend that you should do these tests?
So usually at around 11 to 13 weeks, we do a scan that is called a nuchal scan, and there are some blood tests like double marker. In some cases like elderly and previous history like what you are suggesting, we go for NI, non-invasive prenatal testing also.
Okay.
Then at around 18 to 20 weeks, we do a head-to-toe scan of the baby. That is called an anomaly scan, which gives us a detail of any anomaly or anything if there's, we could detect it at that time.
Yes.
So these are the basic tests which we do.
Right.
And in this case, the pregnancy was going very well. And she was an elderly primey. And there was during the nuchal scan, we could see uterine artery resistance. So we had to start her on ecosprin, and we took, and she was doing very good. But in the third trimester, she started developing high blood pressure.
Okay.
So we admitted her, we monitored her, and kept her in control. We monitored the baby and the mother both. And finally, when we realized that it is better for the baby to be outside than in the womb, the blood pressure was very much high, was not getting controlled on medications. We had to deliver her. And yesterday we delivered her, and baby is slightly premature, but doing very well in nursery. And I think in 3-4 days, the baby will be with the mother.
Okay, that is great to hear. So, doctor, do you see this pregnancy-induced hypertension or pre-eclampsia it is called? So, do you see this very frequently in your practice?
Yeah, so it is common. It is not very uncommon. And especially these days when we have elderly primaries,
Yes.
and we know that, but we have some tests which we say that predictive markers.
Correct.
So we do that at early pregnancy, and there are some medications which we could start to decrease the chances of having PIH in the pregnancy.
Yes.
So we do that.
Yes. So in IVF also, when we follow up with our gynacs, we see that the chances of pregnancy-induced hypertension are slightly high in IVF patients. This could mostly be attributed to the higher age and also what is called as defective placentation. So if we say that most of the cycles are frozen embryo transfers in which we give estrogen hormone to form the uterine lining, these patients are likely to have pregnancy-induced hypertension. It is difficult to predict beforehand, but there are some options like doing the embryo transfer in the natural cycle, which can reduce this risk of having pregnancy-induced hypertension. So, I think in this patient, you kept monitoring the patient as well as the baby and took the decision at the right times. What would be the diagnostic tests which you run in pregnancy-induced hypertension to monitor such a patient?
So we start by monitoring the blood pressure. We check for albumin in the urine. We do the liver function test, how our kidneys are functioning. So we have to keep monitoring these tests because the blood pressure doesn't only affect the baby, it affects the mother also. So we have to keep checking all the parameters, and we try to control the blood pressure with the baby-friendly medicines, and keep checking baby's growth. And then we have to sometimes take a decision to deliver the baby early for mother the babies.
So any precautions which should be taken at the time of delivery, whether it is a C-section or whether it is a vaginal delivery, any special things which you keep in mind?
So we prefer that we tell the patient to deliver in a good center where there's a good nurse, NICU is available, because if you are delivering the baby early, then I need an NICU support, and that is very important for us obstetricians. And a place where for mother health also, I should have an ICU, a good setup. If anything is required, a blood bank. So in a good center where they have a good mother and the baby facilities available. That is a very important thing.
Yes, absolutely, Dr. Poonam. So we see that in such patients, we are able to give an outcome wherein in this patient who has been struggling with infertility issues for long and no apparent cause being detected, but male factor, which is just not the sperm count and motility.
Yes.
And there are so many things even after that which have to be considered, given a thought. And if the cycle fails, like in routine IVF, we don't routinely do all the tests. But then if the patient has not got a proper outcome, then all these things should be reflected and then the treatment can be planned. So this is how we work on a patient of repeated IVF failures and treat the patient with proper counseling and proper workup. So thank you for this hearing this session, and thank you, Dr. Poonam, for being with us in this session of Fertility Files.